Hey, what's going on everyone? How you guys doing today? Welcome back to another YouTube video. And in today's video, we're looking at a very unique build that lets you go full in on Strand. It is the only build that actually lets you have a Strand weapon in each one of your slots. So we're going to be taking full advantage of the new mods, as well as some of the old ones, to make this underrated exotic into one of the best ones. Doing some big damage, while at the same time applying lots of Strand debuffs, having a bunch of tornadoes, constantly applying sever, and also getting our super back very fast, all while doing some pretty big damage against some of the bigger enemies like champions. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's build, and if you do, remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel in case you guys aren't already for some more builds. And let's not waste any more time, let's get into it. And first we gotta talk about exotics, since they're the most important parts of the build. Now the weapon that we're gonna be using for this build is gonna be the Tessellation Fusion Rifle. And this weapon is very unique because it adapts to a damage type to match your grenade. And since we're going to be on Strand, it means that this weapon is going to be on Strand, making it the only weapon that actually lets you run Strand weapons in every single slot. So that's how we're going to be completely embracing Strand, because all our weapons are going to be Strand. So that's going to be the first reason why we're using this weapon. And the second one is going to be its exotic perk that lets us consume our grenade to get a super charged up shot that does a ton of AoE damage and just a ton of damage in general. Even in some endgame content like GMs, you're going to be able to essentially half health champions just with a single charge shot of this fusion rifle. So it's a very powerful shot and it has a big AoE radius. But it does require you to consume your grenade every time you want to use this, but that's why it works so well with Strand, since you get so much grenade energy back. And the weapon itself actually does have something that lets you get your grenade back, because every time that you get final blows with this weapon, you're going to get some grenade energy. Think of it as Demolitionist plus, because it works a little bit better than Demolitionist, and like 3 or 4 kills essentially gives you full grenade energy. And this will also work with the charge shot, so if you fire into a group of enemies and you get a ton of kills, then you get a ton of grenade energy back, so then you can immediately use the charge up again and just keep causing damage. And because we have the catalyst, every time that we use the charge shot, we're also going to be spreading sever, so it gives us AoE sever, it gives us a ton of damage as well as a ton of ad clear, while at the same time giving us constantly our grenades back. So this is gonna be our main weapon, and we basically want to spam that charge shot as much as we can. Now for our exotic piece of armor, we are gonna be today on the Foe Tracer. I tried a couple of different ones, but the Foe Tracer just ended up working the best, and essentially guarantees that we always are running around with a ×4 surge for essentially all our weapons. Every time that we hit a powerful combatant with an ability, it will give us increased damage that matches that ability that we did the damage with. And since we're going all in on Strand, it means that every time that we hit any powerful combatant with any sort of ability, all of our weapons are going to get that damage boost. So we're essentially just constantly going to be running around with this increased damage on all our weapons. And whenever we defeat some of those powerful combatants that we hit with abilities, they'll also create tangles. So it's a very easy way of creating tangles, while at the same time getting constant damage buffs for all our weapons. And what's really good about this is that the higher end content that you get, the more powerful combatants you see, and the more value you get out of Foe Tracer. In some of the lower end activities, you may not really use it as much, but once you get around to GMs and you have all the champions and yellow bars running around, there's something that you can easily proc, especially with the many abilities we're going to be throwing around. Now for the other 2 weapons for this build, you want to go with a Strand Heavy and a Strand Primary. Whatever you go with doesn't really matter, but just make sure that you go with something that matches whatever champions that you might run into, especially if you're taking this into a GM. Now for the subclass, we're going to be on Pure Strand, because I just think that this works a little better. For your class ability, you want to go with Gambler's Dodge, so we can get our melee back every time that we dodge into some enemies. For our grenade, I'm going to recommend the Grapple Grenade. It has the lowest cooldown, so we can get it back really quickly and just constantly keep feeding into our Fusion Rifle to get that special shot. But that's not going to be the only way that we're actually going to be able to use the grapple, because of the special interaction you have with tornadoes as well as tangles. Whenever you grapple a tangle or a tornado, it essentially doesn't use any grenade energy, but you can still do the grapple melee just fine and still apply the sever, still do all that damage. So as long as you have some tangles or some tornadoes around, you can actually still use your grapple very frequently to use that grapple melee and get a bunch of unravel out there to spawn even more tangles. So the grenade doesn't just have to be for feeding into the fusion rifle, you can still have fun with it and actually play like you normally would play with a grapple. Now for the aspects, the first one is going to be Widow Silk, and this gives us a second grenade charge. this is perfect. And considering the amount of kills we can usually get with the fusion rifle, being able to charge up 2 grenades at once is just perfect. Now the second one is going to be the Whirlwind Maelstrom, that Strand Tornado that's going to unravel enemies whenever you destroy a tangle. It spawns both if you destroy the tangle from range, or if you throw the tangle into a group of enemies, it's going to spawn a Strand Tornado, and this thing is fantastic for doing damage, for doing ad clear, unraveling targets. This thing just pretty much does everything this season. And thanks to some of the seasonal mods, it's actually been doing more damage than it usually would, so it's actually even better. And the best thing about it is that we can have multiple of these at the same time, so they're just constantly going to be doing damage and building up our grenade energy, so we can use our grenade a lot more often. I just love the Strand Tornado. It's my favorite aspect in the Strand Hunter, and it works pretty much well in any build. Now for the fragments, you want to have the Thread of Warding. This is going to give you woven mail whenever you pick up a normal power, and this is going to add a bit more survivability to the build. After that, we're going to have the Thread of Continuity, and this is going to improve the duration our sever and unravel some targets, just applying them for a bit longer. After that, we have the Thread of Generation, and this is the most important one, because whenever you deal damage, it will generate grenade energy. And this all types of damage, ability, grenade, super, weapon damage, no matter what type of damage it is going to be giving you some grenade energy. And when you pair this up with the fusion rifle on top of it, and all the tornadoes going around doing a bunch of damage, you get your grenades crazy fast, so you can constantly use those charge up shots. And this is the reason that this works just so well on Strand Hunter, and I guess in any Strand class. And lastly, we're going to have the Thread of Transmutation, meaning that when we have Woven Mail, our weapon Final Blows create tangles. So it gives us an easy way of creating even more tangles, which is going to be really good for the build, for more tornadoes, more Woven Mail, and also more sever. Now moving on to the artifacts. We're pretty much just going to be running the Strand ones. The first one, Unraveling Orbs, is going to give us a very easy way of getting unraveling rounds for all our weapons. Whenever we pick up a normal power or just grab a tangle, we're going to get unraveling for 12 seconds, which is a long time, and it pretty much guarantees that we always have like constant unraveling rounds on all our weapons. And it also gives our weapons extra damage if we're shooting something that has a Strand debuff. And considering all the debuffs that we're going to be throwing around, we're basically always going to be doing extra damage to pretty much everything. Battle Weave is also going to be very good. It's going to reduce the tangle cooldown every time you pick up a tangle, so you can spawn them a lot more often. And also our tangles are going to be able to sever. So whenever they hit something, they're just going to be doing an AoE sever wherever they hit it. So our tangles are essentially going to be applying 2 debuffs, plus the tornado constantly doing ad clear. They're going to be amazing. Elemental Siphon just makes it a little bit easier to make even more tangles, as well as give you some extra super energy every time you pick up tangles. So this works pretty well with the build. Horse Shoulder is going to add some threadlings to the build. Every time we damage some unravel targets, it'll spawn some threadlings, and it actually spawns quite a bit of threadlings. You actually are going to see them a lot, especially since we have unraveling rounds always in our weapons. We're constantly spawning threadlings. And those threadlings are also going to be applying sever whenever they damage an enemy, so even our threadlings are going to be applying debuffs. It is ridiculous. We're just going to have so many Strand debuffs out there that everything's always going to be just constantly debuffed. And the final Strand perk is going to be 2 shreds, and this is what's going to give us a lot of our survivability, since every time we defeat a sever target, it creates a hotspot of Strand energy that gives us Woven Mail. And there's no cooldown for this, so as long as we keep severing targets, we're just constantly going to be making these that are going to give ourselves and our teammates some Woven Mail. And if that wasn't already good enough, it also increases the unraveling projectile damage, and if we sever targets, it increases that damage even more. And this works specifically well with the tornado, since whenever we throw a tangle, it severs everything, and then it starts unraveling everything, throwing those unraveling projectiles all over the place, and since everything's already severed, it's just gonna be taking more damage. So this is just like the perfect mod for the Maelstrom. It is amazing. And the last one you want to run is gonna be Elemental Supercharger. Every time you defeat some severed targets, you get some extra super energy. And this, combined with the enhanced Elemental Siphon, gives you your super back very quickly. So even though this is not like a super regen like build, we're actually going to be getting the super back really quickly, so you definitely don't want to hold on to it. So that's a nice little bonus on top of the build that just happens to really work out with the things that we're doing. And lastly, let's take a look at the mods that we're running on this build. and they're not really anything special, so we're gonna go through them really quickly. First of all, for the helmet, we're gonna have harmonic siphon, so we can make some orbs, and this applies to all our weapons since we only have strand weapons. And then we have special ammo scout as well as special ammo finder, since we are mostly making a special weapon, we just want to get as much ammo as possible. We also want to have impact induction, heavy handed, and also harmonic loader. The fusion rifle actually reloads really slow, unfortunately, so harmonic loader is definitely a must, and it also helps our other two weapons as well. Impact induction is actually pretty good, since we are going to be throwing a lot of power melees out there, just so we can get our grenade even faster. And then heavy handed for the same reason, we're just going to be doing a lot of melees out there, so might as well take advantage of them and make some orbs. For the chest piece, we just have our resistances, not really anything special here, just change these as you see fit for whatever strike you end up doing. For the boots, we're going to have better ready, recuperation, and absolution, so we can heal whenever we pick up orbs, as well as get a bunch of our abilities back. And lastly, for the class item, we're going to have powerful attraction, reaper, and bomber, so we can get some grenade energy every time we dodge, so we can make more orbs every time we dodge, and so we can pick up any orbs in the area every time that we dodge. And it's also going to trigger everything else that we have that's tied to orbs of power. So we're going to heal immediately, we're going to gain a bunch of ability energy back, and we're also going to get unraveling rounds on our weapons. Overall, powerful attraction is just really good, and it's something that I definitely always recommend. And with that, that's pretty much gonna be everything. You guys pretty much have everything that you need to know to really take this build into anything and start doing some big explosions and chunking big targets. Another gameplay loop for this build is very simple. You charge up your fusion rifle and then you shoot into big groups of enemies or at some big targets. If you see some yellow bars, make sure that you hit them with your melee or hit them with your grenade or even use your tornado, because your tornado does count as an ability. A lot of times your tornado is just constantly proccing your exotic without actually you having to even use an ability. It is actually fantastic, and I probably should have mentioned that a little bit earlier. But I actually kind of forgot about that, just because it's something that happens so passively that you don't really think about it. It just kind of happens, and it just constantly procs your exotic. But make sure that you are always just spamming abilities out there to try to get a bunch of debuffs on people. Whenever you see some tangles, make sure that you throw them into the middle of the enemies, or if they're already in the middle of the enemies, you shoot them with your fusion rifle or whichever other weapon you have to blow them up, to apply just AoE debuffs, and then to let the tornado loose in the middle of like enemies. There's no better feeling than spawning a tornado right in the middle of a bunch of enemies and just seeing it tear through everything. And since we're always going to have that extra damage, it's going to make our charge shots hit even harder. Overall, I had a lot of fun using this build. Maybe it's not as good as some of the other builds we put out, because those other ones are just like close range monsters, especially with like the barrel dyad. But it's definitely very fun, will still be pretty effective. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Hopefully you guys give the build a try. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care everyone, have a good